Quorum.
That's good. Good hearing.
Good afternoon. I'm going to call the meeting for the APCB for a regular meeting for April the 12th. And roll call.
Board Member Bennett. Board Member Foy. Board Member Long.
Here.
Board Member Morgan.
Here.
Board Member Parks.
Here.
Board Member Pollock.
Here.
Board Member Ramirez. Board Member Sharkey.
Present.
Board Member Tucker.
Present.
And Board Member Zaragoza.
Present. Thank you, and please join me to salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next item is the minutes of the APCDB for January the 12th. Do we have
Move the
a-
approval of minutes.
First and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. Our next item is consider the approval by a majority vote, any minor revisions to the items on this board. Any? None? Okay. And we have public comments. I have some comments, but that's for item 12. I don't have anybody like to speak from the public other than item 12? Okay. Board comments.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman.
Morgan?
We attended our Tri-County Board meeting. Very interesting. There was a lot of things that went on that you kind of would be going, okay, how do they do that? And they're still dealing with that sand pollution off the, I don't know when they're ever going to stop doing that.
Where's it, Guadalupe?
No, not by Guadalupe, down by Pismo.
Oh, Peaceville, okay.
Where you go down to the sand dunes and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. That's been going on. There's a couple guys that got a really thing on that one. But it's still there. There's still camping, still go there and all that stuff. But I'd like to ask if Mike could come up and hit some of those issues. Did you bring your schedule? I left mine at home.
We'll be including the minutes in that in the next board pack.
For the next board meeting.
But the main issues I covered was an update on our power plant committee.
This is Micah.
Power plants, it looks like. Process, and then I discussed quite a bit of detail the new California Air Resources Board oil and gas regulation for methane and how that's going to interplay with our existing Rule 7410 for controlling leaks in oil fields and oil production facilities. So those were the main issues. And they also talked about the Essential Coast Climate Collaborative, of which now Ventura County APCD is joining into that effort.
So you'll give us more information?
Absolutely. We'll be providing the minutes of the meeting, as always, to your board.
And we talked to them about the hydrogen
Yeah, real
committee.
quick, it looks like with hydrogen infrastructure, the initial push is going to be concentrated in the South Coast area. And it looks like they're going to be putting stations in down there, really, and that's the target both for the infrastructure and the vehicles being targeted for sale there. But they are also looking at building stations so that you can get from Los Angeles, Southern California, up to the Bay Area. And the one in our area will be in Santa Barbara County.
But there's two others they're looking at.
Yes, and there's a
One said
potential.
they want one in Ventura County too.
Yes, we're a little further down the list, but they're looking at perhaps Thousand Oaks, perhaps Camarillo. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for that report. Any
Think
other
of
reports?
Central Avenue, and you're thinking about where they're thinking, okay? So it's not near houses, doesn't keep traffic blocked on the freeway. I told them, can't do this if you do that, it won't happen. But they're looking at that as future.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Any other reports? Okay, our next item is consent items. Review and approve unless pulled for action, but we have one consent item. A second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. Then a regular agenda item, item number 10, we have a public hearing regarding the adoption of a proposed amendment to Rule 42. So we open the public hearing at this time. Go ahead, Mike.
Chair Zaragoza, members of the board, good afternoon. Mike Villegas, Air Pollution Control Officer. Slides should be coming up any second. There we go. Uh-oh. That one? Neither one.
Stubborn, huh?
I guess I'll just say on my next slide.
Do you need it?
That'll work. My first slide coming up, the next slide here.
Do you need the slides?
There we go.
Oh, there we go, okay.
There we, one, back
There you go.
one more slide.
Okay.
Use your thing. No?
Yeah, these have always worked so well.
They were working this morning.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
I
it
think
is.
I might be. We're going. This first slide basically is the language in California Health and Safety Code that gives the Air District authority to assess fees for programs related to permitted facilities. This is the language we get when most of the new mandates come out of the state legislature. Basically, it says, this is a new program, but since air districts have the authority to levy fees, we're not going to include any funding for the new mandate.
Oh, yeah. Typical.
This is just a quick slide at the district revenue. As you can see, permit fees, including the renewal fees we're talking about today, make up over 39% of our revenue. The DMV fees, 38%, and our federal grant at 14%. When you look at permit fees, the covered programs, of course, would be permitting along with source testing, and this is actually taking a sample of landfill gas. This is that photo above source testing is actually a sample at Simi Valley landfill being taken, and then inspections and enforcement, that's one of our inspectors out at a landfill gas recovery well at Simi Valley landfill. And then planning and the inventory, certainly developing the air quality management plan and the control measures related to permitted sources is part of the program we cover with permit fees, along with developing the inventory of emissions from all those facilities. Of course, those control measures need to be turned into rules, and since in essence our authority is stationary sources, almost all of our rulemaking deals with permitted facilities. The only rule we really have that doesn't is our rideshare rule.
Michael, is the landfill over in Oxnard, the Santa Clara landfill, River Ridge, is that still active?
It's closed, however, it still has gas
It still has
recovery and a
gas.
flare, yes. The gas, it's been closed long enough that it's not producing as much landfill gas, so the engines that were near the golf course have been taken out of service, and now they're just operating a flare.
Just a flare? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
a shrouded flare, yes.
Mike, can I ask you a question? These shrouded flares always get me because it's a waste of methane gas that could be used if it's a significant amount enough. And I saw 3 of those going along the freeway when we went to Santa Barbara last week. I saw 3 of those big flares, and I thought, couldn't they capture some of that gas and use it, store
I
it?
know the one by.
Yeah.
the one you-
And unfortunately, with the Oxnard landfills at this time, as your gas production rate drops,
It's not enough
the
to,
viability of, like I said, for many years, they ran engines generating electricity from those 3 landfills, Coastal, Baylor, and
that was
Santa
for years
Clara.
and years, yes. Uh-huh. Okay.
We've tried to contain costs, and you can see that the district has done, I think, a very good job of downsizing. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to be coming to your board at the next meeting to reduce another position that recently became vacant through retirement, and we can internally handle the work, we believe. In summary, we're proposing a very modest 2% fee increase. If you look back at the CPI since the last time we amended the rule, April 2015, through the latest data we have available from the state, October 2015, the CPI was 1.1%. So by the time, we're basically keeping pace with inflation with this. For the vast majority of facilities, that's 2/3 of the 1,400 facilities we have on permit, they're going to see an increase of $11 a year to $576 per year. This proposal would increase our revenue by approximately $47,000 annually. And I think it's very important because over time, we're seeing that federal grant go down, and as EPA tightens air quality standards, you have more areas falling into non-attainment status, and that means that federal grant has more mouths to feed in essence. So that's all I have. I'll be happy to take questions. One last thing I wanted to point out, we did conduct a public workshop on the rule.
Oh, good.
There were no attendees.
That's what you mentioned, yeah, nobody
And
attended.
at our advisory committee, which is an evening meeting, which is very convenient for small businesses, we had one attendee who was there not to speak on that item. So that's all I have.
Okay, any questions of Michael? And the record show that Mayor Pro Tem is here, Carmen Ramirez.
Sorry to be late.
And any additional questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Move the staff's recommendation.
For a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. Our next item is item 11, cancel the 2001-2002 Clean Air Grant Fund up to $150,000, and et cetera. So Stan's going to give us a report on that.
Yeah. Chair Zaragoza, members of the board, Stan Cowan, air quality engineer. This item is a recommendation to cancel an old grant that was granted in 2001-2002 by the fire department for a propane burner system on a training facility that was never built. And so as a result, we are requesting your board to cancel this project since it was never went forward, and approve the reallocation of the money, $150,000, for future clean air grant awards. We did contact the fire department, and Chief Lorenzen said we could go ahead and proceed with this recommendation. He had no objections, and happy to answer any questions.
So Stan, they just didn't use the money, and the money's been there, so.
Yeah, the
now
money's
you
been
gotta
there.
Reallocate those dollars. Yeah.
Yes.
Any questions of,
I have one. So this is, they've had it for quite some time, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering in the future if we might want to have shorter periods of time
Time
in which
limit.
they should spend it, or we get it back so we can be using those funds for good purposes.
Yeah, in the future, any grant we award has a deadline. We'll have a deadline, a reasonable one, too.
So this is about 14 years. Is that
Yeah,
an unusually
approximately.
long deadline?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
unusual.
any other questions of Stan? What's the pleasure of the board? Got a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. Thank you, Stan.
Okay.
Our next item is item 12, and this is the approval of the authorization for the APCD to accept $122,000 in funding from Ventura County Community Foundation to establish, implement electric vehicles, and so forth. We'll
Yeah.
go from there.
Chair Zaragoza, members of the board, Stan Cowan, air quality engineer. This item is a new proposal for a Clean Air Fund project to incentivize the purchase or lease of plug-in electric vehicles, both the battery EVs and the plug-in hybrids. The program will benefit Ventura County residents at participating Ventura County auto dealerships, and since 2011, your board has supported the concept of supporting electric vehicles as a way to reduce emissions. We're proposing two voucher amounts, one at $2,200 for battery EVs and one at $1,100 for the plug-in hybrids. There's an exception. Some of the dealerships could not afford to match the vouchers, and so they requested the lower amount, so we went ahead and did that, agreed to that. All EV dealerships in the county were contacted to see if they would participate on the condition that they would match the voucher amount at 100%. What this does is effectively doubles our budget and provides additional funding. The dealer discount is in addition to any manufacturer discount or state or federal incentive program. The following cities are represented: Oxnard, Camarillo, Thousand Oaks, and Simi Valley. The fact that some of the dealerships did decline to participate shows that this dealer discount is real and will definitely help us do more electric vehicle incentives. If feasible, Clean Air Fund projects should meet three criteria that have been established by the committee in the past. First, it should be leveraged by other funds, and this program obviously does that with the matching dealer discounts. Second, it should provide a community benefit, and by spending all the grant funds in the county, which this does by working with the dealerships. And third, it should have a local jobs benefit, and any revenue seen by the dealerships should result in a continuing jobs benefit. The Clean Air Fund Advisory Committee recommended this approval unanimously. They did make an additional recommendation to allocate 70% of the vouchers for battery electric vehicles and the remaining 30% for the plug-in hybrids. Comments were received from some present and future Tesla drivers about the voucher program. APC staff has been very successful with voucher programs. You probably remember our electric lawnmower program. We did over 1,000 mowers. In that program, we also used leverage because the vendors were able to offer the residents a discount above and beyond what they offered the retail price for the mowers. So that's another example of a leverage program. The comments are summarized in the board letter. After much discussion, the committee did support the proposal, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
And you mentioned, too, this is going to give us our local dealers, Ventura County dealers, benefits, and also local jobs.
That's right.
Which is really important, I think. I have, I'm not sure if the board's have any, but I have some speaker
Question.
cards.
I have one question before you leave him.
Okay.
Approximately how many cars would this service?
About 80 vehicles.
80 cars. Okay.
I have a question too. Is there any provision that you have to be going from a combustion engine to a electric? So someone's not just trading in their Teslas for a better Tesla and getting the discount, for example? Not that we have a Tesla dealership.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, there's no provision.
It seems to me that makes sense, that if our objective is to reduce air pollution and they're already driving an electric car, we don't need to convince them further. You know, I would think it would be better to do it for specifically people who are trading from combustion to electric. I don't know if we can make that change at this late hour. They've already made an agreement, I guess, with the auto dealers. But it seems to me that that's the goal, is to get them out of the combustion into electric.
Right.
So
But
that
that-
would
yeah.
be my preference. I don't
That
know.
agreement probably is already, maybe Mike, Carmen, you want to?
Well, I have a question on a little bit different topic, so maybe you want to give the answer.
You want to answer that question, Michael, before we?
I think on the gasoline vehicle, that was almost unspoken, I think, on our part. And I think if we worked with the dealers, I think we could probably do that. I do.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, if that is kind of the goal
I-
there, so
exactly,
it
that
is
was what
perhaps
everyone was
presumed,
traded
but
in.
why not just enunciate it a little better and clarify it?
Because otherwise, there's zero emission benefit.
Exactly,
So,
exactly,
yeah,
and that's my
kind of an
point.
unspoken, I think we could definitely try to put
Okay.
that in there.
Thank you.
Because obviously, we're basically going to send over a description of the program to the community foundation. And I think if the dealers are agreeable, we could include that.
Okay, I would like to have that added to the motion when we do make one.
So I have four speaker cards here. And the first speaker is Kent Ballard.
Good afternoon. My name is Kent Bullard. I'm a resident of Ventura County. I currently have one Leaf in my fleet at home. We've been driving it for about 4.5 years. It's an outstanding vehicle, or a commuter vehicle that gets us off of gasoline for about 45,000 miles on it right now. The other thing I'd like to do is I really like to commend Ventura County coming in the parking lot again and again, seeing that solar array got going out there. It's really outstanding to see the commitment of the county to that. I just wish there were a lot of electric car chargers underneath it. As far as the item 12 agenda, I think this is a great step. It's really going to push Ventura County into the forefront for a vehicle adoption for electric vehicles. We're 3 other county air pollution control districts that are doing it. It's going to put our name on the map. We have a limited fund this time with the $122,000. Hopefully we can do things like maybe roll that $150,000 of money that hasn't been used for 14 years into more electric vehicles. Or we can do things like tap the $4 a vehicle DMV fund. That's what some of the other air pollution control districts are using for funding for the program. But continue this as a permanent thing. Let's get more vehicles than just the 80. The 80 was limited by the amount of funding this year. But when you look at EV adoption, Yes, we hear a lot about Teslas, but you look at the numbers that in virtually overnight, they had 325,000 people that pre-ordered a vehicle that's not even going to be available.
Saw that
for
in
2
the
years.
news, yeah.
So in the next, between now and then, we can use these fundings to get all these other vehicles that are on the market in and onto the road. And the advantage of the technology changing, we're seeing a 200-mile Chevy Bolt coming out. The cars are going to become more adoptable as they get better range, and we're going to need less vehicle chargers out there because people are going to be able to drive these as normal vehicles. And so let's use this funding, let's use it wisely, let's continue the program and get more and more people into electric vehicles because it's just the right thing to do.
Thank you, Ken.
Mr. Chairman, one thing, real quick. The reason Tesla got all those orders is they took their price way down, and those batteries are the best batteries in the business.
And it's for a different vehicle. It's for a smaller
I know,
vehicle.
But I'm
Yeah.
saying again, the batteries are the best batteries in the business.
Yeah.
And a lot less expensive.
And it's going to continue changing and getting better and better. So let's keep the program and make it better and better.
Thank you for sharing. Our next speaker is Jean
They're making them in Reno.
Getchell.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
It's really good to be back here. It's been 20 years since I served on your hearing board, and I have great affection for this district. I want to simply say that I'm in total support of number 12. I think the district is leading the way, and I think it's a fabulous idea. I'd also like to take this opportunity to make a quick pitch. For someone like me, I'm single. I don't need more than one car. I don't have room to park more than one car. But I have family in Phoenix, and I have clients 300 miles away. So for me, it's just not feasible or practical at this point for me to buy an electric car. So I'm hoping that with the recent change to the Health and Safety Code that allows your $2 fee, your AB 923 fee, to be used for development of alternative fuel and electric vehicle infrastructure, that this district and this board will take a leadership position and collaborate with Eastern Kern, the South Coast, Santa Barbara, and San Luis to develop a really more developed electric highway so I can get where I need to go and I don't have to take several days to get there. I think that would be a tremendous help for those of us whose jobs and families take us out of the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean, for James Reach is our next speaker.
Good afternoon, members of the Air Pollution Control Board. I'm an electric vehicle owner, and I think this is a very good first step for the first 80 cars. I'm pleased that on Agenda Item 9, you appointed me to the Clean Air Fund Advisory Committee, and where I attended in February when this proposal was before you, and was able to sway the board to emphasize the electric vehicles and less emphasize the plug-in hybrids. I think this is a good step. First step, I believe, after speaking to Mr. Villegas, we can use that $150,000 that you just put back into the Clean Air Fund in Agenda Item 11 for another approximately 80 cars. So that's good. But I think we need to find a permanent source of funding. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
And we need to
Yep.
find some sort of permanent source of funding if you believe, as I do, that having zero emission, tailpipe emissions from vehicle commuting should be one of your public policy goals. As you know, the governor has put forth a plan that by 2025 you should have 1.5 million electric cars on the road in the state of California, and the CARB has also a similar plan between now and 2025. Mr. Villegas said you may be getting money from Volkswagen as part of their penalty by the CARB for their Dieselgate scandal. I hope that can be used. But I want to tell you what the other air pollution control districts that do this do. Instead of reinventing the wheel, both the East Kern County Air Pollution Control District, the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District, and also the Antelope Valley Air Quality Management District, all of them use AB 3726 funds, AB 2766 funds, which are the state, local, DMV funds to finance an electric vehicle program. All of them have told me, because I called them in the last couple of days, they're undersubscribed. East Kern County gives $5,000 per vehicle, and San Joaquin Valley gives $3,000 per vehicle. And even with that very high amount of money for a benefit, they are undersubscribed. And I wish that when you make your motion today that you direct staff to find other sources of funding to continue such a vehicle voucher program into the future using these DMV fees. The second thing that Mr. Villegas and I talked about was also including in your motion to exclude Ventura County Air Pollution Control District employees and board members from being able to use this program. He thought it was an ethical issue, and I believe it's true. So that's my request to you, that you ask staff to find additional sources of funding into the future when you approve this motion with additional motions.
Thank you, James.
One more thing, if I have more time, I do. All of the other programs, instead of reinventing the wheel as Mr. Cowan did, all of the other programs, that would be the California State Rebate Program, the federal government program, and the other Air Pollution Control District programs all have one feature in common. That is that to get the money, you shop for your car wherever you want to get it, you buy the car, then you mail into the government agency an application form with a proof of residency like a utility bill and a sales contract and a proof of registration. The government agency then decides if you qualify, and they give it to you on a first-come, first-served basis. The way this program will work is that the auto dealerships will only give you the voucher if they want to. If there's a low-profit deal, like you're coming in and you're not giving them a trade-in and you're not buying the extended service warranty and you're not financing through the dealership, they won't even tell you about the voucher program. They will only give the vouchers out selectively to whoever they want, to their preferred customers and the ones that they will make a high profit on the deal. It's very likely they will start the sale price at manufacturer's suggested retail price, the highest price they could possibly sell the car for, and then give you the so-called matching discount. Also, under this dealer program, you're excluding 3 types of electric cars, including the Kia all-electric car and the Mitsubishi all-electric car, both of which are about $35,000. The Kia all-electric car has a 93-mile all-electric range. And you're excluding several other of the plug-in hybrid models available for purchase. And you're also excluding the new Chevy Bolt that's coming out at the end of this year, the new Tesla that's going to be $35,000 that's coming out at the end of next year, and the new Apple car, the Apple Titan, that's coming out sometime between now and 2018. You shouldn't be selectively telling customers where to go to buy a car. Let's say you like Vista Ford and you want to buy your Ford Focus Electric at Vista Ford. You live in Oxnard, you've dealt with Vista Ford in the future. Why do you have to go to Kemp Ford in Thousand Oaks to buy your car at probably a higher amount of money and probably without the trim level and style you want to get, because there's only a selected small amount of these cars total available for sale? It doesn't make sense to go to the dealerships. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I think in the future you should just have people do a normal, unbiased application procedure where you get the car if you qualify, and the dealers don't give a selective preference to certain customers who are giving them a high profit transaction.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ron Marquardt. Uh-huh.
Like a proof rebate or something.
Hi, supervisors, board members. My name is Ron Marquardt. I live out in Bardesdale, and I'm the proud owner of 2 Chevy Volts and a brand new Tesla, as well as a big solar array for charging all 3 of them. So I'm a big proponent of clean energy. First of all, I'd like to encourage you to not only adopt this EV voucher program, but also to consider funding the next round of them. And I know one of the issues with this is that people look at it like, hey, it's only 80 vehicles. You know, what's the big deal? But one thing to consider is that every one of the EV owners that's buying one right now is an early adopter. And they tend to be people that are very pro-EV. And they're going out there and evangelizing with everybody they know to also go out there and buy more electric vehicles and go solar and everything else. So I think that each one of these vouchers and each one of these EVs bought actually has enormous impact at this point in the way things are changing. So for that reason, even though it's just 80 vehicles, you know, I think this money is well spent and has a huge impact. Just one other point to respond to the concern of Supervisor Parks about only going for ICE vehicle replacement, gasoline engine replacement. One of the things to consider is that even if it's an current EV owner that's buying a new EV with this, that used EV is going to get sold to someone else. For example, right now, one of my Volts, now that I just bought this Tesla, is going to get sold to, I have a long list of people wanting to buy it. And so in that way, it's still getting another EV out there in our county. And I think that whichever buyer is getting it, it's like one more EV in our county, whichever way you go. So I think it's a great program and encourage you to keep funding it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ron.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Before we leave, don't leave.
Ron,
I've
question?
got a question, because I know there's no charging stations in Fillmore or Santa Paula, unfortunately.
Right.
Where do you get your chargers done, for your electric vehicles?
Well, right now I have 2 level 2 chargers up on the side of my garage.
Oh.
And with the Volts that have about a 40-mile electric range, pretty much that'll get us to Ventura. We come out here. Fortunately, Ventura has quite a few level 2 chargers here, so we come out here, shop, see a movie and all that, as well as like the collections in Oxnard, places like that. We do need a lot more charging infrastructure, that's for sure.
And we're working on that too, yeah. And we're working on that too. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that one of the things about having more EV owners in the county is then they also serve to pressure everyone else to put more infrastructure in. So.
Well, it's 19 miles from Santa Paula to Camarillo's Factory Outlet Mall, it's where we had chargers.
Right.
And we have a train station in case you want to take the train.
I'll keep that in mind.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks.
So Michael and Stan, we're looking at working with the local dealers, working with local jobs, and the other question that was asked by James, can we get some more funding later on in the future? Or?
I think we should certainly make it a priority to seek funding beyond this program at this time. I think there's a lot to be said for helping the early adopters. When we pushed the 100% cordless lawnmower, we ran it about 2 years, and then there was sentiment on the board that said, look, you've kind of got this technology out there, and now when you go into Lowe's or Home Depot, you see them right next to the gasoline mowers. And I think that holds true here. I think that there's a part of me that remembers back to the Energy Commission when they were incentivizing hybrids, and it was pointed out to me that we were participating in how absurd that was when you considered that Toyota had a waiting list an arm's length long for the vehicle that the state was incentivizing. And I think the recent development with the waiting list for Tesla says that, we should help the early adopters for a few years, and I think this technology is, it's going to need to go on its own 2 legs at some point. And, I don't want to see it go permanently that we're supporting it, but I think we definitely have to help the early adopters.
And Michael, the $150,000 that the firefighters had is going to be used now for the future
It's
grants.
open to something, exactly.
Grants,
and
yeah.
the other thing to keep in mind is that money never left the community foundation.
Right.
It was in that fund generating capital gains and interest, so
And we can use it for grants and so forth.
that's correct.
Any
Just one. Oh, I'm sorry, somebody else want to ask
Go
a
ahead,
question?
Paula.
Yeah, Mike, can you address the ethics question? Are employees and board members of the district explicitly excluded from the program?
I think sometimes I think legally it would be okay, but how I always look at things is when I bought my electric mower, I just went and got my own. Because, they always tell you, would you want that on the front page?
Right.
And it's just the way I look at it, APCD runs this incentive program for mowers or cars, and then district director picks up, $2,200. That wouldn't. I couldn't back that one.
Right. It would look bad, but it's still, we have 48 employees, and somebody out there might not think about that, but it reflects poorly on the entire district.
It could, yes, and that's why I think it's just best if, when your agency's running an incentive program, you should staff should stay out of it.
I agree. So do we need to be explicit about that?
I think we can do that.
Okay.
I think when we send the Clean Air Fund the letter setting up the program will make it clear, and I will let staff know that, we cannot participate in this program.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
A couple things. Number one, that program we're talking about when they had lawnmowers, the electric lawnmowers, you got to go haul yours all the way to the dump before you can even get the thing for it. There's a cost of doing that, getting that electric mower. And so it's not exactly like it's free. You're just doing one of those things that we should be doing, trying to do the best we can to save, get rid of gas. And I think that's also an example of the board playing into it and doing those programs where you can get, you're setting the example. The other question is, 122,000 and some more they're asking for in the future. Do any of these funds get used to build, as they sit now, to build electric charging stations?
We've been actually utilizing AB 2766 funds for the charging infrastructure projects that we've been backing, so.
Okay, so these aren't being used for that?
No, Clean Air Fund monies have not been used for that.
Okay, that's good, because I hate to take away from the charging stations.
We are?
That's right, we did help with one fast charge station
Okay.
Was that in Camarillo?
with the Clean Air Fund. That was Thousand Oaks. NRG purchased the Camarillo's fast charge station.
We have one in Camarillo too, don't worry, at the outlet mall.
Carmen?
You said NRG. I have to say something about that. Only that just, first of all, lawns are getting less popular, so you were an early adopter, but things do change.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciated the things that Mr. Reach brought up, but I think this is the first step, and next time,
That's
more
right.
money, you can do it better, a little more equitably, perhaps. Very good points, Mr. Reach. I do think that it's very important to really advertise this all over the county and press release. We should all take it back to our jurisdictions and districts and let people know about it. And a lot of people still think it's quite out of reach to get, especially in my community, Oxnard, to get an electric vehicle. But this weekend at Earth Day, I was hearing about the opportunities for leasing that's now that's not purchase, it's not a voucher system, but the opportunities to get one and use it, and then who knows, in 3 years or 5 years, it's going to be some even way better technology. So I do like this.
That's right.
I want to just say this about NRG's purchase of because I have to just put it on the record. The reason they did that is that they bought a company that was involved in the Enron, and you can check it out, the Enron gaming of the energy market, and that was their penalty. So it isn't like they did it out of the goodness of their heart. Just have to say that. Thank
But
you.
that's only a comment, right?
It's only a comment. It's just a facts, man.
Okay. Any other,
I do. I just, looking at how we do turf replacement and some of the smaller companies, of course, there's the big MWD, but there's also smaller water agencies that are doing it also. And they have a pretty good handle on it. I mean, you take you provide information that this is in this case, I could say here's my old car, here's the car I want to buy, here's the receipt, I purchased it, and can I get a rebate? And then it's like the first, whatever number of people who apply can get it. And that to me seems more equitable. If we're getting the information we need, we can verify that information. But I do agree, if we just, select certain dealerships and don't have any direct ability to get all the public involved, I think you have a better opportunity to, maybe not this time, but we can refine this system so that it becomes more available to everyone in the public, and it's not specific to the dealership. I like that
for
idea.
the future, yeah.
Yeah, I think those are really good ideas. I think initially, we had so much success working with vendors with the lawnmower program. And really what that accomplishes when you're working, in this case, there's the fact that the dealers are providing a match discount.
Right.
Although you don't know where the starting point on the price is all the time, as Mr. Reach pointed out, and that's very true. It's a lot less staff intensive for APCD staff to set up a purchase order with X number of dealers. When they're done with the program, we pay them. When you start doing individual vouchers, I think the way to work around that is we have to look at something such as a student intern or something, because
And you make an excellent point that the dealers are putting in half of that
That's right.
cost. But on the other hand, you look at dealerships, they can just raise the price of
Exactly,
the
that's
car,
what I
so you
said,
you
to
have
make it-
no way of determining whether that's the
Whether
case.
that's a
So
real-
that's another thing that we could kind of truth. I think we have that ability as we refine the program.
And then the last thing is, when you do get the California state incentive, you do get you don't get a 1099, although City of Ventura, when I removed my turf, I definitely got a 1099, and they made it very clear in the process there were tax implications. When you receive your monies for an EV from the state, you don't get a 1099, but they tell you there are tax implications. So you
That's a
ignore
good
that income at your own risk.
Supervisor Long?
I just, I think this is a creative program, and I think that as the first start, to have voluntary participation from the business community, from our auto dealers, is valuable. It has the value of a program of bringing customers in who are interested in the product, and then they get a nice rebate on it. And so there's value to that. So I don't think at this point, I wouldn't want to put strings to that, because the goal is to get more of the public engaged in the value of these automobiles.
If you really want to check the price, you're going ahead of time, say, what's the price of this, then come back.
Well, it's a really interesting idea that they could still do that, and what a way to advertise. We will match any rebate you get from APCD,
Right.
And
As
so,
opposed to-
that right there is an incentive and a way of getting it, into the
As opposed
marketplace
to, yeah.
as a marketing tool. They, any dealership who matches, is the one I'm going to go to if I had the rebate.
Any other questions, Michael? Well, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'm sorry.
Mayor, go ahead.
Waiting my time. The only thing I was thinking is with regards to this is, for transparency, since the dealerships are volunteering, just as a thought, is having a disclosure that this is in lieu of whatever price is negotiated for the vehicle. You know what I mean? So that way it's just up front. It's not something that's hidden inside a document once the deal is made. It's
That'll
something
raise
that's
the
just up
pricing,
front. As a transparency component, and they're volunteering to do this, so I think it might not de-incentivize them, but just allow for that continued transparency. The other thought that I had is, I know that in Mayor Morgan pointed out is there's the infrastructure, and I know that we've had conversations over the last couple years about infrastructure and looking at it. Maybe it's time to start looking at how we can put together a strategic plan to implement Phase 3 and potentially Phase 4 down the road, charging stations at strategic locations throughout the county, and encourage cities to participate. I know right now most of them are along the 101 corridor, but not necessarily along the 126 corridor.
Yeah, right now, it's
good point.
so you know that Santa Barbara District, San Luis, and Ventura County are part of a group that is working on a plan for EV infrastructure. And the first go-round, our district was the lead, Stan Cowan, and we had a grant from the Energy Commission to develop a plan for that. So those efforts are underway. Certainly, like I said, we need to be cognizant of the fact that these vehicles need to make it from Southern California to the Bay Area, two very large
That's right.
population centers.
All righty, thank you. Any other questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move approval of staff recommendations with the provision about the internal combustion engines.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that's approved. Thank you. Item 13 is authorization for the Air Pollution Control Officer to reimburse Team Nissan of Oxnard up to $11,000 from the Clean Air Fund EV voucher program for the redemption of 5 EV vouchers worth $2,200 for the purchase of lease 5 Nissans that were bought in advance.
Yes, this was a situation where I looked at the letter that Stan sent out, and it was very clear to me that the program didn't start till your board acted. And then Team Nissan, in a little exuberance, they jumped the gun and provided discounts and told people they were going to be receiving
5 cars.
$2,200 rebates. So basically, they provided the discount with hoping that the APCD was going to reimburse the dealership. And to be honest, I don't want to penalize anyone for trying too hard. And
It was in good faith.
it was a good faith effort. And yes, did they put 5 Nissan Leafs in the road in Ventura County? They certainly did.
Carmen. Carmen, what's
I
this?
just have a question. Do we have any other dealerships that are in that situation?
No, we do not.
No.
Sure.
Yes.
Thanks.
So you got a motion to approve and a second, Mayor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, give them the money. Okay, then item 14 is approval of the authorization for Air Pollution Control District to execute an indemnification agreement with Mission Rock Energy Center LLC for the proposed Mission Rock Energy Center located approximately 2 miles west of Santa Paula.
Yes, Calpine, known in this case as Mission Rock Energy Center LC, is proposing to construct a turbine-based, natural gas-fired power plant about 2 miles west of Santa Paula. And this would be a plant with the capacity to generate approximately 255 megawatts of electricity. One difference here is they're proposing a plant not with one turbine, but with multiple turbines. So this does have the effect of lowering the stack height. And I don't know, I was out at in San Joaquin near Bakersfield, they have an oil field there where they actually have 2 of their own power plants in this size that were 4 turbines each. And it's much lower profile than a large single turbine with the very tall stacks. So I think from visual impacts, there's a difference here. With respect to power plants, the Energy Commission in California is the lead agency. Our role as an air district is to advise them on compliance with federal, state, and local air quality regulations. And we go through what's called a determination of compliance review, which is identical to how we would issue an authority to construct. Should Mission Rock Energy Center receive a license from the Energy Commission and they comply with all the requirements in that determination of compliance, we're mandated to issue the permit to operate. Power plants by nature are controversial, to say the least, and there could be litigation involved on this proposed facility. This matter could easily result with the district being named as a defendant. In order to protect our financial resources, we're proposing to enter into an indemnification agreement with Calpine. This agreement would have Calpine agree to indemnify and defend the district if a lawsuit is filed challenging the permit. Calpine would pay our litigation costs, attorney fees, any damages resulting from that litigation, except in the case where there was district fraud, gross negligence, or willful misconduct. Because this indemnification agreement provides us with safety for our current financial resources, I believe that we should enter into this agreement, and I'm urging you to approve the agreement and authorize me to execute it.
And Michael, we're mandated to give the permit.
Yes.
And as a result of the identification is so important.
Once we apply all our rules and regulations and we look at their proposal, and if it meets all the rules and regulations, the Energy Commission is going to take that and most likely issue a license. If they issue the license, and that's an if, because they can consider other issues beyond just our permit, then we would be required to issue our permit, which is called a final determination of compliance with respect to power plants.
Any questions, Michael?
Yes, I do have a question. Isn't there an issue called CEQA that they've got to go through?
Energy Commission is the lead, and they do an analysis that's equivalent to CEQA.
There was a whole thing presented by this group over at Santa Paula the other night talking about CEQA and everything. It had to be done.
Yes.
And that if we take a stand now and they don't pass CEQA, because we have to be part of that CEQA investigation, where we look at the air quality,
That's correct.
recalls and all that stuff. Why are we jumping in until we find out what the CEQA says?
We're required to review this permit, and there's a time frame set up in state law. So we need to start working, and as part of the CEQA analysis, we're going to look at the air quality modeling.
Exactly.
And those results are going to be part of the preliminary determination of compliance. All that information will then go to the Energy Commission. They'll look at environmental impacts and make a decision on that license.
But do we have to do this before the CEQA is done?
It's a mandate, right?
That would be part of it. We need to do the analysis so that you have the information so you can make a determination under CEQA.
This just
Car-
gives us indemnification
That's right.
should there
Yeah,
be
this is no
litigation
action
filed
approving.
after the action is
Approved.
taken
This is
by
just
the
an
Energy Commission.
indemnification. Okay,
This
I'll
is
make that clear.
strictly a legal
That's right.
issue that if
Only
we're
in-
challenged,
Okay,
we're going to be defended.
Carmen?
okay, gotcha.
Just a question, do we have the same agreement with NRG?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, any other
Move the
questions?
recommended action.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mike, that's approved. Item 15 is the adoption of a resolution approving the deletion of one full-time FTE.
Well, it's actually several.
Several.
Several positions.
Okay.
And I have to admit, a couple of these we already came to your board with to remove from our budget, and somewhere along the line, it didn't happen, and we're going to do it again. I do need to point out on item 5, that actually is something that is actually occurring. We had an individual request to move from our planning division as a specialist to become an instrument technician in our monitoring group. Took a demotion to do that, but he really likes that kind of work. He likes being out of doors. Now it's changed back. Actually, since that job has changed so much, we looked at our jobs, but basically there was the old days with wet chemistry and a clipboard, and now you have to be a specialist in electronics, data acquisition, and we bumped up the scale. So technically, since the technician position is not exempt, there could be overtime costs. So, but this is pretty
Okay.
straightforward, and those costs are already included in the budget.
We got a motion to approve. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? None, that's approved. Item 16, receive and file application for Section 103 grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency.
We're just advising your board that we're applying for federal funding for our particulate monitoring network.
So, pleasure of the board. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? None, that's approved. And we have correspondence, 17, from Sarah Bartholomew. Do we need a motion for that? Second, all in favor? Any opposed? So our next item is closed session, and
We're going to close session. Can I let you know something we're working on that helps improve air quality?
okay.
A group called Freedom Trees. Now, Simi Valley, you may know about Simi Valley, getting 2,000 trees. They put in a park over there from this Freedom Trees group, Free Trees. Well, one of the things when it came to me, I said, wait a minute, we got a mountain up there that needs to be held down. And up above Camp Springs.
Oh,
And we've met with all homeowner association, I have met with them, with these people, and it looks like it's going to move forward. We'll do it in phases, and a lot of it will be done on county grounds, up in private property, so it'll be coming back to you.
Good.
Well, not back to, but you'll get to see it.
okay.
And so we're looking at 300-400 trees.
Okay.
So,
And
let's
you'll
see how
give
it
us a-
goes.
Give us a report back on that. Okay, our closed session item, County Council, or APC, you want to share anything in closed session, and we're going to have a report back after closed session?
Correct. The closed session item has to do with potential initiation of litigation, and there may be something to report after the closed session.
Okay, and after that, then we go to the standing committee. Okay, we're going to adjourn to closed session, and we'll come back with a report on that. Okay, how many people do we need to? The whole? Okay, then I'm going to open again the APCB meeting, and we have an announcement from our council.
Thank you, Chair Zaragoza. During the closed session, the board approved the filing of amicus curiae brief in support of South Coast Air Quality Management District's petition in the matter South Coast Air Quality Management District versus United States Environmental Protection Agency in the United States Court of Appeal for the District of Columbia, case number 15-1115. The board also authorized the Air Pollution Control Officer to execute, on behalf of the district, a legal representation agreement with the law firm Slover and Loftus to prepare the amicus curiae brief and related pleadings, and to pay the law firm for the services that are rendered. The vote of the board during closed session was 7-0, with board members Pollock, Long, Sharkey, Zaragoza, Tucker, and Morgan voting yes.
How about Ramirez?
And Ramirez
And
voting
Ramirez.
yes. I'm sorry, thank you. Board member Parks abstaining, and board members Foy and Bennett absent.
Yeah. Thank you for that, and with that, we're going to adjourn to, Michael, to, what's our next meeting? We're to standing committee, but then our next meeting is going to be May 10th. Okay, and so we're adjourned now, and then the standing committee will meet over at the CO's office. So we're adjourned. Thank you.